Have you been in situations where you said yes to others even when it meant sacrificing your own needs and well-being? Maybe you found yourself feeling resentful or frustrated after social interactions, but struggled to speak up for yourself in the moment. These feelings can be incredibly difficult to deal with and can leave you with feeling of helpless, stressed out, and even depressed. It can be hard to know what to do when you're stuck in this cycle of people-pleasing and self-neglect. But the good news is that there are things you can do to start feeling more in control of your life and your relationships. So if you're tired of feeling pushed around and ready to start standing up for yourself, then watch this video till the end. Agreeable people tend to be empathetic and caring towards others. They avoid conflict and confrontation. They are very accommodating, willing to put their own needs aside in order to accommodate others. Being agreeable can be a great trait, but when taken too far, it can prevent us from standing up for what we believe in and lead us to neglecting our own personal needs. Of course, it's okay to be helpful and do favors for others, but when you only focus on pleasing other people, it will eventually lead you to a burnout, frustration, and resentment. One of the things you must be careful of as an agreeable person is not to be exploited by others. As an agreeable person myself, I used to fulfill the needs of other people, completely neglecting my own. So let me share a few lessons I have gathered along the way. Personality trait is not something you can cancel out completely. You can't just turn around and say to yourself, I'm gonna stop please other people. That politeness and need for approval is deeply embodied in us. However, you can definitely balance it out with your conscious decisions and behavior. Agreeable people often forget that you can't pour from the empty cup. In other words, you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of others. When our cup is empty and we keep on giving, this eventually leads to a burnout, frustration. We feel underappreciated. We feel like we're being treated unfairly. We feel like we're doing so much for others and nobody even cares. We often forget that we're actively contributing to this situation by saying yes to everything. We only have so much mental and physical capacity. Our resources are not infinite, and we must learn how to use them in the most efficient way. If your own needs are not being met, it becomes difficult to have the energy, motivation, and emotional resources to support and help others. Prioritizing our own needs and taking care of ourselves can actually enable us to be more present and helpful. By filling your own cup, you can approach relationships and interactions from a place of abundance rather than depletion. For an agreeable person, standing up for what they believe in or what they need is not easy. With the natural tendency to please others, agreeable person usually end up being a good friend to others and a bad friend to themselves. They feel guilty for making themselves a priority, forgetting that they're just as important as anybody else. This kind of behavior has a terrible mental health consequences, leading to inner conflicts, stress, and low self-esteem. If you are a person who's neglecting your own needs, I just would like to reaffirm that you have the right and obligation to stand up for yourself. You should never feel guilty for making yourself a priority. This is not immoral, but rather necessary act of self-care. And I'm sure you understand this. But the question is, how can you really feel this way in your heart so you can walk the talk? When you get clear on your priorities, life does become so much easier. But first, you need to find out what your priorities are. Ask yourself what is important to you. What is absolutely necessary for you in order to be the best version of yourself? What are your values? what matters to you. Once you're clear on your personal values, you're going to be better equipped to communicate your needs and boundaries to others. What's even more important, you have major and legitimate reasons to convince yourself why you should stand up for yourself. Acting out your priorities will give you a massive confidence boost and will empower you and make you feel in control of your life. The fact that you can recognize your own priorities doesn't mean that people will never try to cross your boundaries or push their own priorities onto you. That's normal and expected. The question is, what will you do in this situation? How will you react? Are you going to be able to say no? Or will you feel guilty and fall into your old patterns of behavior? As much as saying no feels uncomfortable and making us feel like we are disappointing others, we must recognize that this is not a selfish act, but rather an essential part of your existence. If you struggle to say no, it's very useful to practice saying no and visualizing how will you react in a certain situations. For example, if you're constantly getting overwhelmed at work because you're saying yes to everything, imagine yourself saying no in a respectful and assertive manner. It may be a shock to you and your coworkers at first, but if you communicate this well and make them understand the importance of your priorities, they will understand. But remember, don't over-explain yourself. You're trying to be polite, not apologize for making your priorities more important. Majority of people will understand and respect you for it, and those who constantly trying to take advantage of your kindness will most likely want to show you their disappointment and make you feel guilty. And if you happen to be in an unfortunate position to deal with them constantly, make sure to stand up for yourself and your priorities even more. They will get used to it. Remember, you only have certain amount of mental capacity to deal with your priorities. Subtracting from your list of priorities is just as important as adding to it. The truth is that no one else will teach people how to treat you other than yourself. And if you think that you don't have what it takes to do it, watch the next chapter of this video. Sometimes we rather avoid conflicts because we prioritize harmony, or we worry to be perceived as confrontational or difficult. And while avoiding conflicts can be helpful in some situations, it can also lead to problems if it becomes a pattern of behavior. Many of us feel vulnerable in this kind of situations because we associate conflict with hurt feelings and negative reactions, so we rather sweep everything under the carpet. But we already know that this is not a good long-term strategy. Neglecting our own needs will only lead to a resentment and inner frustration. So what can we do? In reality, we have only three options when we encounter conflict. We can either be a tyrant, a victim, or learn how to negotiate. We don't want to engage with the first two positions, so let's focus on negotiations. In order to negotiate well, first you need to know what is it that you want, and we have covered that already. Spend some time to find what's important for you and what are your needs. Second, you need to find the courage to be willing to stand up for yourself and be okay with the other person rejecting you or your point of view. And here lies the big problem. What is very often stopping us from searching for that courage in the first place is the need of maintaining a positive image or reputation, need of being perceived as a good person, all driven by fear of rejection. We spend so much of our mental energy on trying to be liked and to be approved by others that we get so attached to our social mask that we forget that there is something more deeper and more meaningful behind this perfect image. There is real you. Carl Gustav Jung, Swiss psychologist, explained the persona as not authentic expression of an individual true nature, but rather a constructed facade that is designed to meet expectation of others. If you truly wish to live your life on your own terms and feel authentic doing so, you must realize that you are more than just your social persona. Of course, we all put the social mask in order to adapt to the world. However, over-identification with your persona will lead you to loss of your authentic self and lack of courage to be who you really are. That's the big price to pay, and we're often willing to pay it because we find it easier to show this perfect image rather than face our imperfections that we hide from ourselves and others. As Jung said, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. We desire love and acceptance from others, but how can we expect this from others when we don't fully accept ourselves? The fact is that none of us is perfect, and a key to becoming more authentic is to bring that imperfection to the light, learning from it and taking care of it. We often seek external validation to feel better about ourselves. But don't you think it would be more meaningful if that approval and validation came from you first? Perhaps if we could embrace ourselves fully, if we could show the love and acceptance to the parts of ourselves that we're not really proud of, if we could accept our real selves, perhaps then we wouldn't have to chase external validation from others. Remember that more you want the approval from others, the less you're going to get it. Only when you're sure of your value and you don't seek validation, that's the moment when people feel attracted to your personality. But this has to come from within. If you wish to know how you could embrace the part of yourself that you keep in the dark, you can watch my last video. In summary, I just want to wish you all the love and acceptance that you need on your journey. As you can see, there is a lot that you can do in order to start looking after yourself. And once you do, there is so much more you're going to give to this world without feeling resentment or frustration. Rediscovering yourself is an ongoing journey. Take your time and enjoy the ride. Thanks for watching. I will see you next time.